ladies and gentlemen, to Fast Lane Day number 2. It all comes down to this. 2 members of this group are going to go to Premier, and 2 of them will go down to Challenge. And we got 4 really strong members. 3 of them are definitely big names. Patience, I think, also he made it into Premier, and he's fighting to get back.
That's right. The question is, will Maru play better than he did in his matches on Monday in the first phase of Fast Lane, where he fell down there to Deer in the end? Definitely not his best performance, so we'll see if he can step it up tonight, because tonight's the night that matters most. Obviously, everyone who played on day 1 who didn't get through, the bottom 2, have another opportunity in day 2 of Fast Lane. It's kind of like their extra life. So Maru is one of those players that looked a little bit weak in his previous matches compared to what people expected to see from him, given his deep run in the GSL. So a little bit disappointing for Maru fans, but he's still got one more chance tonight to get out of this group. Don't know if he will, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy coming into a group where you have Byun in it in any sense. And, of course, as I mentioned before on Monday, he definitely looked a little bit out of form, just a little bit. I don't really know what to call it, but he got 0-3'd by Deer, and he got, I think it was 1-3 by Hero. But he was just getting crushed left and right towards the end, and he just barely made it in to the Fast Lane. So kind of a rough spot for him. I hope he does show up tonight as well. He's only got one chance here.
That's right, and excited to see the TVT with him and Byun. Of course, that's going to be one of our starting matches of the evening. So he showed a really good TVT against Gumiho in the GSL in the semifinal, so hoping he can repeat that performance. Here's, of course, Soo-hyun, our announcer, to break it down for you guys. But today should be really good matches. It is going to be GSL format, so if you missed on Monday, it is going to be 5 best of 3s. Standard 2 matches, double elimination, winner's match, and then loser's match. And the final match to decide the second player. The winner of the winner's match will move on directly. This is a really important match because the winners will go directly to next season of Premier. And there's much more money there. You're obviously playing in front of a live audience. So here we go. These are the 4 players. We start off with the TVT, Maru versus Byun, and then Classic starts off against Patience.
Yeah, so TVT, PvP. And what are you expecting out of this group? I mean, Maru, he had some weak games, but I feel like he could make it through.
I feel like, honestly, I think Maru is the biggest question mark for me in this group, and the next to that would be Patience. I feel like Maru could absolutely end up falling here if he loses the TVT, which is unlikely, and then perhaps faces off against Patience in that secondary matchup. That could be it for him. I feel like he's definitely looking a little bit weak in the TVP matchup specifically. For Classic, I feel like we might see that revenge match of, if you guys remember in 2016 where Classic knocked Byun out of the SSL if they end up beating in the winner's match, which is an unlikely scenario given Maru's TVT performances recently. That could be an interesting rematch there, perhaps revenge for Byun. Classic's always had Byun's number historically in late game PvT in Legacy of the Void, so I'm excited for that potential matchup that we could see as well. But my favorites here, I'd have to say probably Byun and Classic, to be honest. Perhaps Patience makes a run through. He's definitely got it in him to do it.
Yeah, I think Patience is definitely the dark horse coming into this one. He's not seen quite as on the same level as the other 3, but he definitely has a big chance to come through. I mean, if he can shore his PvP together and come together against Classic, that would be really nice. Classic went down to Deer in, I think it was the losers match,
yeah,
in the first day of Fast Lane. So Classic also not looking that strong overall. Did lose the PVZ, I think it was against Dark, and then lost against Deer in the PvP. So Patience, he has some matches to do some research on. He also has the matches from Challenge, from when Classic was going up against guys like Hero and Deer himself.
That's right. So those are some extra factors Patience has to study. He's been a really intelligent player in terms of Protoss versus Protoss, brings out a lot of builds, gets really aggressive in the matchup as well. And what's really interesting about Patience, of course, too, is SSL seems to be the league he does very well, and he excels in this league specifically more than any other league. Doesn't really have great success in the GSL. His overseas performances, his online tournaments, you know, I wouldn't say mediocre even, I'd say they're decent, but in the SSL, that's when he really makes waves. So a lot of fans kind of surprised he even finds himself here in the Fast Lane at all, since he usually has such a deep run in SSL. He couldn't make playoffs, however. And of course, we're starting off with Maru, 50 and 36. He's played in every season of the SSL, and he ended up falling down to 7th. The weak performance with his teammate SOS. The Jin Air players They're the sponsor of the league. Jin Air, of course, the players themselves didn't perform as well as some of the other ones.
Sponsors of the league and also the most well-supported team out here in Korea, but still, yet they were having trouble in Premier. Of course, Maru did make it to the round 4 of GSL, so it's not like he's totally not doing great right now. It's just he's had some trouble over in SSL. Maybe the best of 3 per day wasn't really his style. Yeah,
I mean, you have to consider, too, that Maru sometimes does have tournaments he kind of bombs in. For example, he's never been to a GSL Finals, so could have been his chance to be the first player ever in StarCraft 2 to win an SSL, an OSL, and a GSL. Didn't make it here. Byun, of course, winning the last season of GSL in 2016. Yeah, Maru sometimes just has these tournaments he bombs in, like Kespa Cup, for example. Kespa Cup's one of the tournaments he looked worst in, despite looking very dominant just beforehand. So we'll see if the tension of the GSL preparation and preparing for TVT just recently will give him an edge here against Byun. It absolutely could. Let's take a look at our map pool. Newkirk Precinct, Whirlwind, and Abyssal Reef will be our maps for this one. So definitely going to go to a bit of a larger TVT map pool here.
Both these guys want to play defensive for sure. And, you know, Newkirk Precinct coming out here first. Kind of funny, that was the only map that both these guys chose. So that is the first one that we will do. But then onto those bigger, more defensive maps, Whirlwind and Abyssal Reef. So guys, let's jump into game number 1, Maru versus Byun. Fly, better fly, Jin Air. Down here in the bottom left, the red Terran. It is Maru.
You're taking the fast lane, getting kicked off this broadcast. Down here, of course, is the bottom right in blue. It is Byun, his opponent. Got a smile on his face already. And Maru has shown so many proxies on this map. Innovation did as well, of course, in the SSL Grand Finals, but this is the map we've seen so many base trades with Maru on. Seen so many, you know, proxy reapers. It's so common on this map in general. Byun had a smile on his face before this start, almost as if perhaps he knew this was coming. At least, why else was he smiling? Not entirely sure. Perhaps he's just in a good mood, but scouting this will be very important. Without a scout of this, he could just die once the Reapers get pulled up and start to win that battle. It's going to be a micro war, of course.
Maru was always one of these players that would always just pick a map like Overgrowth in the past, and now it seems to be Newkirk Precinct, a map that would always come out in a series, and he would just pick that one map and just two racks all the time. In the past, he used to be up against Zergs. Now it seems like he's doing it a lot against Terrans on this map. And if I were Byun, I would know that this is possible, but he hasn't scouted at all, which kind of worries me. It seems like he's kind of just a bit laid back here, not worried about this.
Yeah, it feels odd to, against a player who's so known for this on a map it's so popular on, just simply not go for any sort of scout whatsoever. Obviously, if you scout and there's nothing there, it feels pretty wasteful. And at the same time, even though Maru's taken the greediest proxy location, perhaps you scout and you put it a little bit further to the north and you feel like an idiot for scouting and then operating under false pretenses. This is definitely still holdable by Byun. If he pulls his SCVs, it's a good micro exchange. He absolutely can win this because he has the numbers advantage in terms of SCVs when he pulls them. He's going to go scout with his first Reaper, and that's going to give him the information. This is what I'm talking about.
Close.
If you just don't go north enough, then you're like, oh, okay, I guess he's not proxying me. And then you operate under false pretenses, so that could be worrisome. He starts the factory here.
Yeah, he's going to need some of those factory units to come out. But here we go, the first 2 SCVs, first 2 Reapers, and immediate cancel on that CC. Here comes Maru, looking for that aggression.
The Reapers here outrun the Marine, but he does protect it. Actually, the SCV will get the kill here, and that's a big problem. Now the Marine, the majority of the DPS is gone. He will catch 1 Reaper, but he loses his second, and now he's just going to be outnumbered here as a second Reaper comes in. This may just be game over. The grenade will finish him off. And now he just heals up, and more Reapers will stream in. Good surround attempt, though.
Oh, but he doesn't get it. And that's going to be a lot of lost mining time that he needs to continue producing units. And I think he's just desperate here. Losing 8 more SCVs is Maru, or rather Byun. And Maru, a little bit of a lapse in the micro, but does have more SCVs, or rather Reapers, coming in.
He just has the production advantage now with the factory just now finishing its first Hellion. Hellion will help ward this off. It just feels like this is too much damage. Now the Reaper comes in. He has to protect that Hellion. Obviously, the Reaper could just go regen. He splits it here. Byun's unable to secure the kill. That Hellion, if it goes down, this could be disastrous. Good micro here. Finally gets it away. Could actually be repaired. That's exactly what he's going to do. The Marine survives as well. And maybe he finally holds this.
Oh, the repair. Nicely done there by Byun to hold on.
Cyclone started at home for Maru. His starport is coming up. He hasn't made a command center. He saw the immediate cancel of Byun's CC, so he knows that they're on 1-1 bases, obviously. And he has the economic advantage in terms of SCVs. So he just wants to scout with this barracks. Now will continue to produce Reapers. Or will he actually? Supply blocked at the moment. One barracks is still on the ground. He may just look to try to contain with the Cyclone.
Some barracks float. I'm not sure exactly what he's looking for with that. Perhaps the follow-up, because it's not like he needs the high ground vision, per se. Maybe he can snipe a Marine if Byun's not paying attention.
Yeah, the biggest issue is the Hellions, of course. If the Hellions weren't there, he'd definitely be looking for some pickoffs here. Let's see what he does with the Cyclone when that comes around, because that can be a big tell here as to what his plan is. We do see a dropship is coming out. The barracks, he wants to have that survive long enough to see this dropship. He will see it. So he knows that it is going to be a drop follow-up. He doesn't have too much at home, but here's the Cyclone. He's going to commit to the contain. It's not a hard contain, it's a soft one. He's going to have the Viking at home too, and that second Cyclone. So don't think Byun's going to find much with that initial dropship. Needs to pull the Hellions back.
Oh, we're getting a look at this dropship that's coming back, and as you can see, Maru able to just jump on in and get a full scout of the base. And he does see the cloak is on the way if he was paying attention. Actually supply blocking Byun here.
Yeah, the Cyclone only able to get a depot, but still quite significant. Cyclone does so much ground-to-ground damage so quickly. He picks that off. Has a defense set up at home. But when the dust settles here, the key factor is as the command center finishes from Maru, Byun plants his own. So this cloak is perhaps his ticket back into the game, but Maru seems to be well prepared. Starting a Raven and an engineering bay at the same time. Already has these Cyclones and a Viking.
There's no avoiding it. He definitely is really far ahead when it does come to, you know, his defense of the Banshee, his economy. Byun does have this small ground force that he might look to poke the front with. We'll see how much damage he can get done with that, because Maru, he did not pull back. He actually was trying to get as much damage as possible to the end. And back at home, he also only does have, it looks like, 3 Cyclones.
Well, this Banshee is about to have cloak, doesn't have it yet. Can't stop the missile turret from going up, and if he's got a scan save, that is a dead Banshee for sure. Raven comes out, doesn't even need the scan. 4 SCVs go down, which is still significant. Actually gets the 5th there right before he dies. This push, though, is not going to do anything, gets shut down. And I don't know if this really made up for the fact that his CC was so behind. The extra mules, the extra SCV production, and also the additional barracks that he got out much faster as well are big problems for Byun at this moment in time.
Yeah, definitely still liking Maru's position. We'll have double Raven, it seems, and with the tank production, we could definitely see another follow-up push coming in here. When you do have all of those auto turrets, even the Viking, you can easily control the sky. And then
here's the
there,
scan and the lock-on. That should be a dead Banshee. See you later. Now he's coming up here to the front. Byun does have his units evacuated up the ramp. Very well done. Wants to try to hold on. It's his last Alamo here. We'll have to lift the CC. Is obviously going to wait for the first mule to be dropped.
Yeah, it's just delaying what seems to be the inevitable. Once that tank comes across the map from Maru, those Marines can't get close. Doesn't look like they have any upgrades. And even just fighting right now with the Cyclones, going up there with the auto turret and tries to go for a counter drop, but it looks like there's more units back at home. Maru looking to take game number 1.
Yeah, the liability really more than the success of this drop, meaning the unit's not at home. GG. Unit's not there at home to defend. Even if he had them, would have been a tight defense. The extra Metavic healing wouldn't have been that significant with how quickly Cyclones do DPS to ground units. The attack speed there means without combat shields on those Marines, without stim, without DPS, even the Metavic healing there. Byun had a smile on his face when the game started, and as the game ends, the smile remains, but it's definitely going to be a frustrating situation. Yet the late scout sends it out there, sees the barracks far too late, still responds well with a good SCV pull, but unfortunately lost his first Marine. And things snowballed from there in terms of SCV kills. The faster CC coming up from Maru helped seal the deal. And the Cyclone tech that he did behind this.
What is going on with Byun today? He's just so happy regardless of what is going on in game. Now he's spamming in the chat. Just like, ah, with a bunch of exclamation
He's literally
points.
writing in the chat, ah! Well, he's definitely in the zone one way or the other. Just unfortunate circumstances there. Now going into a bigger map, which both these players wanted.
Yeah, and looks like we're ready to start this up, guys. So game number 2 starting right now. Here we are on Whirlwind. Start off for game number 2. Up in the top right, the red Terran, it is Maru.
And his opponent to the top left in blue, it is Byun. So we have the horizontal spawns here on Whirlwind. Very classic map. 4-player, very large, could end up being a somewhat split map situation. Controlling the watchtower, not as significant in these positions, but could end up being a factor. But we'll see how the compositions get played out here, as obviously Marine count and Marine tank is going to be very important, unless one of the players wants to throw a wrench into the gears of the meta and go for some sort of mech play. Speaking of throwing a wrench into the gears, we're going to see already the command center first here from Maru.
Really trying to abuse the maps for, you know, what they are. Newkirk Precinct, a 2-player map. There's lots of locations where you can get a close proxy, but also have it not easily scoutable. And on Whirlwind, obviously, 4-player map. If your opponent gets unlucky with the scout, or even if he does get lucky with the scout, it's a really big map. He might not even scout. There's such a big gap between your 2 bases that even if he knows this is going on, Byun might not be able to punish it right away. Yeah, so I like what Maru's doing.
There's definitely the chance, and we've seen it before even in this matchup, on this map throughout all eras, as this map was introduced, of course, in Wings of Liberty, where you just proxy 2 barracks in the middle of the map and hope for the best when you're playing against someone who's so known for going for a CC first, like Bomber, for example, back in the day. But you run a high risk when you do that, and it's still defendable. And if you scout wrong when you put the barracks in the middle and you just, unfortunate, you're not able to see the CCs there, or maybe he just doesn't happen to go CC first, you find yourself in an economic deficit. So with this situation, obviously, Byun will scout this, and there are counterplays to this. He's going to have the tech advantage, for example. He can go for an earlier drop. And Maru gets away with it. This is exactly what he wanted. So good opening here for Maru. Gives him a pretty slight lead.
Yeah, I mean, he went as greedy as possible. CC, double gas, right? He follows up right with the factory. You can see that Byun's factory is ahead, but it's not miles ahead. And Maru, he is the only one to scout this time once again. Byun, he's just committing to only making 1 Reaper and scouting the front of his base and then keeping it back for defense. So you can tell he's kind of just going with a no scouting kind of strategy here in this series so far.
Gives you a very slight edge in terms of SCV, mining. The SCV that you send out is just constantly getting more minerals than you would if you had sent it across. It's a very small edge, but if you're confident that your build is good against anything, then it's definitely a way you can play it. There are a lot of players throughout StarCraft 2 that were famous for not scouting, and Byun was not really one of them. In fact, he was really started his career back in the open seasons where there were so many cheeses. If you didn't scout, you're probably going to die to even just standard play. But yeah, just wants to play it out, at least in this TVT best of 3, this way for now.
By the way, Maru did get the scout of the CC, in case you guys weren't 100% sure. Our observer didn't really show that. So the SCV was able to get up there and scout past the Reapers.
Indeed. We got our fancy pants observing PC over here.
I feel so in control.
You're so in control.
To other leagues
not
I do.
Not in control like the...
Not Jeff, no.
WCG pro gamer.
Warhammer enthusiast.
Warhammer enthusiast, DDR champion.
Whoa, where are those SCVs going?
I don't know.
I saw that Byun.
It's okay.
He pulled all his SCVs and then placed them back on the minerals.
Well, here comes the first scout for Byun. Gonna get this information of the CC. Obviously knows it's here now, but it doesn't know necessarily how long it's been there unless it clicked on the mineral patches. Reaper will get shut down, but does scout. Pretty normal transition at home. Does see no cloak research on the tech lab, so knows that's very likely to be a Raven. So Stim is going to be out much faster here for Byun. He's going to have the +1 faster. If he can utilize these tools, if he can realize that he has this very slight advantage, that he can definitely catch up. Even if he doesn't, he's only slightly behind from the greedy opening. You know, back in the day, we talk about how CC first is super important. Back in the day, back at Wings of Liberty, it was much more significant of an advantage than in Legacy of the Void because you start with so many workers and you can transition to getting that expansion so quickly. So the timing between where Byun now has his CC versus Maru's CC first is not as large of a window, not as large of a gap as it used to be. But still, he has this slight tech advantage. If he can find a way to use this, then he can definitely get significantly ahead. Otherwise, the game will kind of slightly normalize once Maru gets his own tech out, his own Stim and +1, which are both just a little bit behind. Gonna poke up here actually a little bit with these. I guess is what I would say if I were trying to be a nice commentator.
Sacrifice a naughty Marine. That's what I would say. He's got this double drop coming in here with about 14 Marines. And he's looking to start his third a little bit early and not in the main. So looking to put on pressure and retake the economic lead with this move. At the same time, I do like it. Maru, on the other hand, is playing very defensive. He's getting tanks, he has a bunker, sitting back on 2 bases. He knows his tech is behind and just wants to take as little or no damage as possible.
Yeah. Byun's going to come back here. He still has the booster activated. The cooldown, of course, on the Cyclone is reset with that lock on. Going to burst these down with his Stim that he has first. Maru doesn't have it yet. He also has +1, mind you. If he can actually get on top of that siege tank, that would be a huge opportunity. He's going to go for it. Gets on it. Down it's going to fall, but actually, no, it doesn't with the auto turret there.
That was so close. That tank got 1 hit off on the chunk of Marines. And if it had not gotten that hit, the tank might have gone down, and then maybe Byun, he could have picked up after that, or maybe he could have stayed. We'll never know because that tank got that huge hit.
He got the huge hit, and there was no combat shields, obviously, for Byun's Marines either in this scenario. But that was a close call. I feel like he also over-microed, if that makes sense. Like he move commanded to get all the way on top of the tank. Had he just stutter step microed instead, perhaps he would have killed it faster. Now either way, now we're going to lose these Cyclones that were out up at the front. Down they go.
Stim Marines are faster than a giant armored car.
Drugs, man. Not even once.
Well, he's going for the push here. I'm not sure if this is going to work. You can see that he has not built his third command center. As I say that, he drops it right down. He was listening, just waiting until I said he wasn't doing it to do it, of course. He's got 3 tanks, and down the ramp comes Byun. He wants to go for this fight, but will take some losses.
Needs to be careful about how he engages this. Maru's already killed a significant amount of his units.
Oh, look at this play. I think he's going for the mid.
He definitely...
the main. Whoa! Whoa!
Wrong genre. He's gonna attempt this, but he gets caught. Actually, a risky move here by Maru. But he does draw the units away, and this auto turret's gonna get a few more kills. Byun does react fairly swiftly here, though.
Yeah.
But Maru has killed a significant amount of units. It feels like Byun is playing nervous. The amount of misrallies we've seen in this game and miscontrols have been just a little bit too high, to be frank. But he got his units in position there. He defended that. Very well done with the Vikings. But he can't lose any units. If he gets even a few units picked off a chunk, Maru may just be able to end the game here, so he needs to be very cautious. He's going to have the better siege up position. Good splits here on the tank, so Maru is going to go for it here, attacking into these siege tanks, gets both of them, and that's the chunk I'm talking about. This is now a worrisome position for Byun, who's at 2 tanks to 6.
Yeah, taking out those 2 tanks is gigantic, as you're mentioning. Getting some free pot shots, too, even before the main fight starts.
Oh, Vikings, too.
Oh, man.
If you control,
not looking good for Byun.
If you get your units caught in the ramps controlled like this, it's just such a terrible position to fight. Now he's going to try to bait these Marines down the ramp. Does kite back and kill the Raven. A small edge here. Look at the scan here from Maru. Seeing if there are tanks on the high ground, seeing that there's not. Does continue to stem forward a little bit more. Now can actually move his tanks into position. Again, he outnumbers now 7-2 with the siege tanks. Good flank here, though, by Byun. Will he clean this up?
Doesn't look like it.
No.
Just barely, not enough. And more stuff streaming across the map. Maru going to take the quick 2-0 here over Byun and making it look easy. Byun seemingly happy about it as well. All smiles so far. We'll see how he looks after this loss.
Going to the losers match, that is going to be about it. Sieged up, GG, Maru with the 2-0. Not something too shocking considering that he played a very solid TVT series against now finalist Gumiho just last week.
Not happy anymore is Byun.
No.
Wouldn't expect him to be, but I feel like he almost felt like game number 1 was a fluke, but then just in a straight up game in game number 2, he did get owned by Maru. So Maru, the better TVT player tonight. We'll see how he does against one of the Protoss players in the winners match.
He got away with the command center first, but more significant than that was the amount of units that Byun bled off in order to try to punish that. You know, I talked about he had that slight tech advantage. He tried to use it. The failed drop in the main base was almost really good, but then ended up being a disaster. He bled a few units off. He lost both of his cyclones. He just didn't have enough units to deal with Maru's follow-up pressure. Scouted the drop coming into the main base, but had the setup there at the natural to break through.
So guys, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got the two Protosses going head-to-head. Stay tuned.